Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm here with David Lovett at Mad Hatter on West 23rd Street. That's 1918 West 23rd Street. And David and Mad Hatter have been an institution here for quite a few years now, haven't you been?
Yes, sir. We've been around for quite a long time.
Yeah, so, you know, I had you on the show once before, and I wanted to come out and meet you and get to know your business a little better because of what you did on Memorial Day. All those veterans came in and,
Yes, sir.
and got free oil changes.
That's right.
You guys were pretty busy that day, weren't you?
Yes, sir. We had a lobby full, and I tell you, it was a great feeling to see all those active duty military men and women and all the veterans come back in and hear all their stories. It was a great day. It was a great day.
And it's a good thing that you did there. I got to tell you, my hat's off to you, Mad Hatter. Gotta get that hat thing in there. Anyway, you know, when I came in here, I noticed how busy you are. Not only is it a great location, but you apparently do good work because you get a lot of people coming back.
Yes, sir. Well, there's two things that we look for. We look for quality and service. You know, so we don't sacrifice one bit on the quality, so we have very few returns. And people know that, so they come in and we emphasize our service as well, both in the front back here taking care of the customer and back on the automotive on the repair side. So we've been in Panama City for a long time. We plan to be here for much longer.
You know, there's one thing that my viewership might be interested in. A lot of ladies are intimidated by going to a mechanic. You know, they think they always think they're getting ripped off, or they always think they're talking over their head somehow. You kind of pride yourselves on being able to work with the ladies and explain things to them, don't you?
Yes, sir. Well, we try. We try our best. We try to make our lobby comfortable. You know, make it comfortable for non-intimidating. You know, we don't have a whole lot of parts and pieces laying around inside the lobby. When the ladies talk to our service writers, they talk in plain English. And they try to explain it down to the very nut and bolt. If necessary, we'll take them back out, let them look at the car, and then physically understand exactly what's going on with their repairs.
Yeah, and that's important. When you're going to spend money on your car, which is a big investment for most people, you want to understand what you're spending money on, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, it's important that when they leave here that they feel uncomfortable about what exactly happened, because there's nothing really cheap about auto repair. You know, it's expensive, and so when they leave and they spend a couple $100, they need to know what they did and what we did, and they need to feel comfortable about that repair.
Well, you know, if you want it cheap, you get it cheap.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
true.
pretty much get what you pay for when it comes to this type thing. We've got to run off to the local weather, but after the weather, maybe you can show me around and introduce me to some of your crew here.
Absolutely. Yeah, be glad to.
You're watching Waking Up with Don, and we're going off to your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here at Mad Hatter Auto, and I'm speaking with David Lovett and his manager. And who's this now?
This is Joshua Brown.
Josh, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, you're the manager here, right?
Yes, sir.
But you kind of do it all, don't you?
More or less a jack of all trades.
Yeah. Now, this is, we were talking before we were rolling about the size of this place. I mean, how many cars can you handle here?
Wow, at any one given time, we could probably put 12 to 14 cars in here at one time and work on them.
So it's a pretty big facility.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And they keep you hopping all the time, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Now, if somebody comes in here, what would be the first thing to do? Just your typical auto shop, you walk in through the front door and say, hey, check my car out or change my oil or whatever.
The first thing you want to do is more or less identify why somebody's at the shop, find out the nature of their problem, so you make sure that you're looking at what they're actually there for instead of something that they don't want. Basically, you want to get them comfortable because, you know, more or less getting your car worked on is like going to the dentist. You know it's going to hurt. The question is just how bad. You don't know until you get there. So you want to get somebody reassured and more or less give them a little bit of comfort that they're in a good place, that you're not trying to do anything wrong for them. You're going to get their vehicle fixed and get them back on the road.
Now, are you going to be the first person someone would see when they come into the front door?
Yes, sir. Either myself or Daniel.
Okay,
Yes.
so someone will greet you at the front as they go in.
Yes, sir.
And well, I'll tell you what, maybe you can show me around. I think I know a lady who needs some work done to a car.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can
Handle it
kind of spy on how that whole process goes.
I think we can handle it.
All right.
Hey, good morning, Miss Karen. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. What brings you to us today?
I am due for an oil change.
Due for an oil change? All right.
My air conditioning isn't working as well as it should be.
Ooh, really?
So if you don't mind checking that out too, please, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, ma'am. I'd be glad to do that for you.
Thank you.
Just to verify one more time, what's the year of your Grand Marquis?
2005.
Okay, got you there, ma'am. That'll be no problem at all.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see.
Hey, Josh, you think you show me how to do this? I think I can help this lady out.
You know what? I think I can do that for you today.
All right.
That's not a problem at all. Basically what we've got going on here, she's saying that we've got a little bit of an issue with the AC system. It's not blowing as cold as she would like. We'd also like to do an oil change for her. So what I'm doing right now is just setting up the work order for the gentleman out in the shop to know what we've got going on. How long has it been going on for? Just a couple of days with the air conditioner?
Well, yeah, since it's hitting the 90s now, it's not running as cold.
Okay. And haven't smelt any funny thing inside the vehicle or anything like that?
No, it's just the air seems warmer.
Okay, absolutely. What we'll do on here is we'll start off with a basic AC check. We'll also go ahead and put you down for an oil change, and I will be glad to get you started.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. I just need a key to your vehicle, and make yourself comfortable. If there's ever anything else I can do for you while you're here, just let me know.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
All right, well, good. Maybe you can show me how to do this oil change, and maybe you can show me around
I think
the
I can
shop.
handle that for you. I think I can do that.
Cool to do. And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show, and it's time for your Pet Health Minute, or Pet Health Tip of the Week, from Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital. Welcome back to the show,
How you doing,
Doc.
buddy?
Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Now, we were talking about, hey, that's my wife. We were talking about off camera about the importance of spaying and neutering your pet. I mean, there's a real overpopulation of feral dogs and cats. isn't
Yeah,
there?
I mean, there's 8 to 10 million pets in shelters, at any given year. A lot of these animals get euthanized, they don't get homes. And just from that standpoint, having these animals euthanized, I mean, that's pointless, So, and a lot of it has to do with, obviously overpopulation, and it's not so much people who own dogs with their pets and breed them, and then, okay, well, I got this litter of labs, I got 12 of them. I'm gonna give them to my friends, It's like next thing you know, you got 3 friends who want them, and you got 9 puppies with no home, and they get to be 12, 12 weeks of age, 16 weeks of age, and they're tearing your house up. And so they end up going to the shelter. And a lot of people want to do is, oh, I want the experience for my kids, and that's nice, and I get that. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you've already got people who are,
have a
looking
plan.
But even more than that, I mean, there's so many pets that are just wonderful, wonderful dogs and cats in shelters that could really use good homes. So there's the overpopulation standpoint, but there's also the health standpoint too. So like with females, like female dogs, they usually go into heat somewhere around 7 to 9 months of age. The bigger the breed, the sooner they go into heat. And every time they go into heat, it increases their risk of mammary cancer. Mammary cancer in dogs is estrogen receptor responsive, so the more times they go into heat, the more times they produce estrogen, the more likely they'll get cancer. And so, we like to, we say that if you spay them before their first heat, you'll decrease their risk of mammary cancer by 99.9%. So it's almost non-existent. And if you do it after the first heat, before the second, it reduces it into the mid-60s, and after the second, before the third, into the 30s. And so, yeah, it's great to spay them before their first heat. I think I'm a little mixed on that to some degree, because you see a lot of dogs that get spayed when they're young, but then they grow really tall because the hormones, the androgens that you produce, tell your growth plates when to close down. And so a lot of these dogs, when they get spayed really early, they kind of get a little taller, increases their risk of orthopedic injuries. So. But it does make for an easier spay when you spay them before they go into heat, because the uterus is still prepubescent.
So what's the right time to do it?
I guess it really depends. Like small breed dogs, I mean, absolutely, I would do it before their first heat. You got a giant, like a large breed dog, giant dog. Certainly if you don't want to deal with the heat, absolutely go with it, because I think the increase in orthopedic injuries is only like 0.5% to 1%, but they do grow to be taller. But if you have like a Great Dane or something like that, a lot of times it's good to wait maybe to that first heat. But if in another thing too is when they go into heat, every time they go into heat, it increases their risk of having something called a pyometra. So usually you'll see this about
Pyometra.
Yeah, it's when the uterus fills up with pus.
Yeah.
And so it is yucky, and it's very unhealthy for the dog. And if the cervix is open, then it's a pretty easy diagnosis, because you see all this infection pouring out. But if it's closed, then it's almost like a water balloon of pus just filling up in that abdomen. And they get septic, and if it ruptures, they'll die. And then you have to take the sick dog to surgery with this uterus that's infected and potentially friable, and it can rupture on you while you're removing it. So those health issues, mammary cancer. And pyometras, those are really good reasons to spay from a medical standpoint, not to mention overpopulation. And then from the male standpoint, if your dog's not aggressive, if it's not a free roamer, if it's not hiking its leg or a real amorous, a lot of times I like to wait until they're about a year of age. Because if you spay them or if you neuter them when they're really early, then they never really benefit from that secondary sexual characteristics from testosterone, and so they look like little feminine dogs with male body parts.
I was going to ask you about do dogs kind of get fat and lazy?
They
and
do.
listless
When you neuter them, you decrease their metabolism by up to 20%. And so the back of the bag of the dog food that everybody likes to go by, those studies are done on 1-year-old intact male and female dogs. So if you just follow the guidelines, you're automatically overfeeding by about 20%. And so that's one of the things we see a lot of obesity just based off of, not knowing that. But, if you do keep your dog intact, usually what we'll see is, testicular cancer. That's a pretty easy diagnosis. One's really a lot bigger than the other and a lot harder.
Yeah.
We'll see benign prostatic hyperplasia. So, you see that commercial at night with the guy who's going to the bathroom, he can't pee, and what happens is the prostate gets real big and then it compresses against the urethra and then they have a hard time urinating. And then another thing we see is like they'll get hernias, perineal hernias, where when they get really older, the pelvic diaphragm, which is like on either side of your your rectum, there's 3 muscles there, they get weaker over time, and then there's some straining to do whatever, and next thing you know, bowel and bladder will just go right through it.
Geez.
And I mean, their skin's still there, but you see this big bulge. So there's a lot of benefits to neutering them. It's
But
just
you got
the
to do it at
timing's
the right
good.
time.
Yeah, exactly right.
So, and to find out the correct timing for your dog, just consult your veterinarian.
Absolutely.
Dr. Stephen Favaloro, Forest Park Animal Hospital, thanks again for getting us smart on
Thank
our
you,
little
sir.
furry friends.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
So first thing what we're going to do is check everything over. It doesn't look like there's anything massively wrong, anything that's obvious that would cause our oil leaks or anything of that nature. So what we want to do is do a couple of preventative steps. What we don't want to do when we do the oil change is put too much oil in or forget that we have not added oil when we're done, things of that nature. So there's a couple of tricks that I recommend that we do to remind ourselves. First thing, we can go ahead and take the oil fill cap off and just set it up by the hood latch of the vehicle. It's a very easy way to remind yourself that you have either not added oil or you need to put the cap back on. You can't really shut the hood without it. Secondly is going to be on this particular unit. We've got an engine oil dipstick right over here on the right side. It's down here. Usually about 90% of vehicles, it's going to be right in that general area or on the passenger side, and there'll usually be a yellow handle.
Right.
We just more or less want to pull that out or pull it loose so it sticks out and says, hey,
Okay.
you haven't addressed me yet.
Here I am. Okay, there you
Yeah.
have it. So I'll just put it back in here, but I'll put it in loose. I'll leave it so it's sticking out a little
That'll
bit.
be just fine.
Okay, how's that?
That'll be just fine. Okay. Now in this particular instance, we've already got our lift set and we've got the preliminary checks done. We're going to deal with the AC when we're done with the oil change, so we can go ahead and take her up in the air. What we're going to do when you change the oil, there's basically 2 main components you have to deal with. We've got the engine oil drain plug, which is right here. On most of your engines, well, on every engine, on the oil pan is where your plug is going to be. They can be on different locations, but they'll always be on the oil pan. What we're going to need to do is remove that, and then there's also going to be an oil filter, which on this model is in a pretty fun place. You ought to enjoy this
Oh
one.
boy, okay.
It is right here.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
to take that loose, it's in a fun place to get to. So we should enjoy that a little bit.
I'm sure you have a special tool or something, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What we do is we turn the wheel to the left. That'll give us a lot more access. Another thing too is a very good point is you want to make sure before you do your oil change, you want to make sure this area is nice and tight and dry. You don't want to look for any kinds of wet spots. That can be a sign that you've got either a little bit of an oil leak or maybe the bolt wasn't tight enough or it needs to be replaced. It's a very good way to check.
And this looks like a nice shiny little bolt here. It looks like it may even be new. Who knows?
It looks like it's in really good shape. We don't see any signs of leak or any kind of wear or tear. You also don't see any chew marks or what we call damage to the bolt where somebody's been a little heavy-fisted there in the past and maybe done some damage to the engine drain. And what we're going to do here is just crack it at first. We more or less want to make sure that we've got it loose. Now you can do that a couple of different ways, like he just did it, or there's a couple different techniques. We're going to slide this under just to catch the oil that's starting to drip. Way he just did it is just fine. You can also, some people like to put their wrist on the wrench and then tap the other side of their wrist to kind of give it a little bit of extra tension. That works just fine.
Now this is still pretty,
It's still pretty toasty warm.
it's still pretty hot, and it's still pretty tight. I thought I'd be able to, there we go.
Sometimes on certain models they do fight you a little bit coming out, but it's nothing to be too concerned with. As long as you don't feel any kind of a fighting when you're removing it.
Now it's going to come squirting out of here because we've got a lot of
Yes,
gravity
sir. What
here.
we're going to want to do is be prepared for that. It's going to come out. We're going to want to place our drain container
All right, here
right
it
about
comes.
here. Now be careful when it comes out. It might bathe you a little bit. You can go ahead and set that in the drain pan if you'd like.
Yep.
Let me get you something to wipe your hands.
And that oil, oh, by the way, is hot.
Yes, the oil's
You
gonna
could
be a
fry
little
chicken
bit
in
hot.
that oil. Actually, I think I've eaten chicken fried in oil like that.
Now what we want to do is inspect that gasket that's on there to make sure there's no rips or tears and there's no kind of crud. We can go ahead and remove the old, looks like they put a silicate marker on it.
Yeah, and this thing, oh, by the way, is mad hot. This is like holding a hot coal right now. Yeah.
It doesn't look like we've got any damage to the threads. It doesn't look like there's any kind of damage to the crush gasket or or the bolt itself. So this one should be just fine for reinstallation. I think we can go ahead and cinch that one back in there.
Okay. So she's pretty well drained out.
Yeah, usually when it gets to about that amount, when you see it drip steadily, that drip process, you could let that do that for days. And the amount of oil that's in there and as slow as it comes out, that'll happen for a while. When you see it get down to that thin of the amount that's draining, you're good to go ahead and put the oil plug back in.
Okay.
What you want to do is just start that by hand, and more or less you can run it up by hand as you like. Of course, don't burn your hands in the meantime. And then after that, excellent. Wipe it off and use your wrench. What you want to do, the main key to tightening the drain bolt, you don't want to over tighten it. When you feel it starting to get snug, that's more or less when you kind of...
Yeah, you don't want to crack this thing. You just want to cinch it up.
Yeah.
Is there recommended torque on these things?
There is a torque spec for it. I believe on this one it's actually 12 pounds.
That feels about 12 pounds.
That's about right. That should be perfect. That's excellent.
I mean, coming out was, there you go. I'll leave it at that.
They're a little bit more fun coming out. Once that metal's been in there and it's been hot 5 or 6 times, they become very friendly with one another. That looks excellent, doing wonderful. Looks like we've got our drain plug reinstalled. We've got no residual leaks. Looks great.
Okay, we've got to run off to a commercial break, but on the other side of that, maybe we can put some fresh oil in this thing and change out that oil filter.
We can do that as well.
That looks like big fun. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Josh, and we kind of cheated during the commercial break because I got to tell you, that oil filter is really cooked on there. But we got it a little loose, so
go ahead and unscrew it.
Unscrew like that.
Now, as you unscrew it, you'll see it starting to let out a good bit of oil. So
yes, sir. I see that oil coming my way. Oh yeah.
We've got that in our catch pan here.
Yeah, we do. We got it on my chin.
A little bit of a bath, never hurt. Yeah,
that's all right.
It's good for the skin.
Yes. I usually use oil of Olay, but I guess 30 weight's not too bad.
Oil of Pennzoil doesn't hurt.
Oil of Pennzoil.
The main thing that we need to be aware of, especially the viewers at home, make sure when you change the oil filter, look on the bottom of your filter. There should be a black rubber gasket that runs around the base of this filter. If that gasket is not on the filter, you need to check up where the filter was and get it off of the housing, because
now, is that the one we're putting in?
Yes,
that looks slightly smaller than that one. How come?
The difference in the shape of it really isn't the matter. It still can carry the same amount of capacity, just the casing's a little bit different.
Okay.
So it's going to work just fine for us, won't cause us any problems. But what you want to do is make sure once we've got that gasket off, you want to go ahead and make sure on our new oil filter that we put a layer of lubrication, and you can use your old oil.
Just use some old oil here.
Perfect. Run it around the outside of it.
Okay.
What that does is when you go to remove that filter, that oil being there will pay dividends. You'll be very happy.
It'll be a lot easier than what we had to go through during the commercial.
Now
I don't need my rag anymore because this is nice and cool.
You are ready. You are able to reinstall.
All right.
What we can do is go ahead first and remove our dipstick. That's the yellowed handle on the right side. Go ahead and remove that and clean it off. So we've got our dipstick fresh and clean and ready to go. And like I said, on this one, the approximate quarts should be about 6. So what we'll do, we've got our oil dispensary here.
Okay.
If you thought the other one was dirty, you really like this one.
Oh, that's all right.
This one's a little bit more dirty.
I'm all about getting dirty today.
All right, now on this model, we're going to unscrew the end of it to go ahead and let the oil come out.
Do I do this right over here, or does it make a difference?
You can. There's not any residual pressure buildup.
Okay,
It'll
so
bleed on you a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, she's open.
What we'll go is go ahead and stick this in here because we don't want to have any dribble running down the side of the engine. Now there is a release on the bottom of this trigger. It's got a safety mechanism, this little button, and you're going to squeeze it. You'll see the meter on the top of the gauge go up. The second one in is going to be, or the first one's going to be your quarts. So you want to let it go ahead and give it oil until about 5 quarts.
Okay.
On the dipstick, on this particular unit, you can see we've got a hole here, we've got a hole in the unit here, and some X markings in the middle. Now what this represents on this model is that is the low mark and that is the high mark, or the full mark. The distance between those two on any vehicle is 1 quart. So if your oil level is here at the bottom, you need to put 1 quart in it to bring it to the top level. So we can go ahead and stab the oil pan and see how much oil we've got and use that for a reference.
All right. I'm stabbing the oil pan.
It's a very violent repair process.
Yeah, it is, really. Oh, yeah. All right. Been a while since I stabbed one. All right, here we go. And am I looking at the right side? I don't have my glasses
Now
on.
it looks like we've got right in the middle of the halfway in the full line. So what we're going to go ahead and do is add 1/2 of a quart and then start the vehicle. That way the oil gets into the filter, and we'll recheck it a second time.
Now, this is taking longer than usual, I'm sure, because you got me along. I'm not exactly indie pit crew over here.
Hey, you
okay. All right, we're looking good.
Yep. Looks like we're dead on the full mark. We are good to go.
Perfect.
We've got Miss Karen's oil change completed.
Well, thanks so much. This has been kind of a, I've changed oil when I was a kid in the driveway, but now cars are so much different, and there's so many things you don't want to tackle by yourself, but oil's probably one of the few things you can.
Yes, you can.
If you have the right kind of car.
You can. You can do your own oil change. There's a lot of basic maintenance you can do.
Well, thanks for showing me around, David. I mean, that was great. I actually got my hands dirty for once.
Well, we appreciate you coming, Don. Anytime you want to come by, just come on by.
Yeah,
we'd be happy to have you.
And you guys are welcome to come on the show anytime, too.
Well,
I mean,
you.
Mad Hatter has got it all here. You got a great staff, friendly people, and a big facility to get stuff done.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's anything from oil changes, engine changes, some diagnostics, AC work. We do everything. So I'll make some models too. So.
David Lovett, thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate you and everything you've done for us. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.